Congratulations! We did the listening section. Just need to wrap up everything, repeat everything, make a revision, and we're done. We're done with the listening, and we're actually done with half of the test, right? We already did reading and listening. We only have speaking and writing left. So congratulations on finishing the half of the course, and let's wrap up everything we learned in the listening. So, of course, some of the tips of how to pick the right answer. There are certain things that you need to pay attention to. First one, look for the main idea. And the main idea is always in the first sentence of your listening passage, in the first sentence of the lecture, or in the first sentence of your dialogue. It's always the main idea there. So pay attention straight after you hear the first words of the listening passage. Do not just like look around, try to start understanding, and then start understanding at the middle of the fourth sentence, then you're gonna miss the first question. And all the questions are very important. So look for the main idea in the very first thing you hear. Spot idioms, jokes, and weird phrases. When a professor makes a joke or asks a question or suddenly says something weird like an idiom or some phrase verb, it means that there will be a question about it. So spot them before you're asked and remember the context where it happened. Remember how it happened and what motivated the professor to say that, okay? Pay attention to pauses and intonation. So the pauses are very important because the lecturer is actually reading something. We know that the guy who was reading it for you, recording it for you so that you can hear him on your test was the guy who read the script. So of course that script was written with very good classical English standards of written text. So when the speaker makes a pause, it means he's starting a new paragraph. And the paragraph, of course, is starting with the topic sentence. So the main idea of this paragraph. So pay attention because there's something important going on. And of course, a professor is a hero. We never put a professor in an even slightly bad light. The professor is just perfect human being. He's not actually human, he's a hero, right? So we never pick those answers which put some bad light on a professor. So now let's talk about how do you answer questions correctly. What other tips can you use? So pay attention to the screen. There are photos, graphs, and vocabulary. So usually you just see a photo of a speaker. If it's a lecture, then you see some professor like with an open mouth saying something in like this in this little position, and so it gives you kind of an understanding what the professor looks like and what is the class environment. But sometimes while you're listening, you can see a graph instead of a photograph, or you can see some vocabulary written. For example, a professor wrote something on the board and you see that vocabulary, it appears on your screen. Sometimes, while you're listening and taking notes, it's difficult to always pay attention to the screen. But look at it sometimes. Like you're listening, you're writing it down, and then have a little glimpse on the screen. Because if you do, then you can notice that there's something changed there. The photo was changed by a graph or a vocabulary, and that's important. For example, you're writing down like some word and you don't know how to write it, and then you look at the screen, oh, there's a word written there. So pay attention to the screen sometimes while you're listening and taking notes, because there might be something going on there. There might be some helpful things showing. Pay attention to speaker's intonations and emotions. So the way speaker is talking can help you a lot. Sometimes he makes a pause, sometimes he slows down, and then sometimes he starts to laugh, right? And that means there's an inference question going on. Or sometimes he's like sad or angry, especially in the dialect. Or sometimes he's happy and cheerful, super energetic. It can help you a lot. There might be a question about it, or it can just give you a better understanding of what he is saying and what he's into. So pay attention to those things, into intonation, how fast he speaks, where he makes his pauses, and then his emotions. Sometimes it's very obvious what is he feeling. Pay attention to specific instructions, to answer choices, charts, etc. So it's very bad when you just pick one answer choice or three answer choices and you get it all wrong, right? So just pay attention to it. Or you're trying to do a chart and then make sure you know how to do a chart, you know how to put all the sticks. So pay attention to the specific instructions. What is this question? Is it a multiple choice question? Is it a chart? Is it just one answer? Is it multiple answers? So pay attention to the instructions so that you don't make mistakes. Read the question and the answer choices carefully. We talked about it, especially with the chart. Always read what you're asked. With the negatives, if you're having a not or except in the question, pay attention to it. Do not forget about it. It sounds obvious, right? Read the question and answer choices carefully. What is this tip? But so many people do this mistake. Like I have so many students and they're like, when they check their listening passage results, they're like, oh, I read this question wrong. I didn't notice that thing. So it's a very common thing. Although it's pretty obvious to tell you to read the question answer choices carefully, then a lot of people just don't do it. So read it carefully. Just always pay attention to what you're asked, because it's a very common mistake. Don't get into traps, paraphrasing, and main idea. Okay, so the test makers are horrible people. They want to make your life harder. So first of all, they want to paraphrase the right answer, and then just do no paraphrasing in the wrong answers. So you know about it, you know about that trap. So you're not going to make them succeed in their little bad thing. You're going to choose the right answer. And also, you know the trap about the main idea, that the professor or two speakers, they often just get distracted from the main idea. They're blown away from there, like somewhere else. And then you're asked about the main idea, and you have these two wonderful options, right? Something that was said at the very beginning, and something which they actually talked about the entire time. So you always know this trap, that the right answer is something that they said at the beginning. No matter where they went, what they discussed in the end, and where they got distracted, and where they found themselves at the end of the lecture, the main idea is always the first thing you hear. Keep track of time. Of course, TOEFL is a very time-limited test, and in the listening, it's also a problem. So while you're practicing, try to have a timer on your phone and practice on time. It will help you a lot to successfully pass the listening section. Check your answers before clicking next. You remember that we always have to click next and then OK in order to move to the next question. And then you cannot go back and change your answer. So before you click next and OK, you always have to check your answer very well. So make sure you answer it the best way you could. It's the right answer. You're 99% sure it's the right answer. Pick it and go next, okay? Answer all questions and make educated guesses. Never skip a question, because there's no point in skipping the question. You can't go back. And so at least you tried. If you have no idea, you zoned out and you didn't hear it, like no idea. I never heard anything of that. So just pick anything, any random thing, because if you're just not picking anything, you'll lose your opportunity. You lose your 25% chance to guess the right answer. So don't lose that chance. And of course, make educated guesses. For example, you don't know exactly what is the right answer, but you know for sure that this answer is wrong because the professor is stupid in this answer, right? And that cannot be true. So you at least crossed out one answer, then it raises your overall chance of getting the right answer. Now you're only choosing 1 out of 3, not out of 4. So always read the answer choices very carefully. Even if you have no idea what the right answer is, cross out those which are totally wrong, which are for sure wrong. You know it. For example, those where the professor is an idiot. Then if you cross out those answers, and we saw the examples where it was just 3 out of 4, right? In the 3 answer choices, the professor is an idiot, and only in 1 choice, he's not an idiot. So it happens a lot. So always make an educated guess. Try to see what answer choice is totally wrong. There's no chance it can be right, and then choose among the rest. Okay, so now let's talk about how can you improve your listening skills out of your TOEFL preparation. Of course, you're taking the scores, you did a lot of exercises, and that's great. You did a lot of practice tests, but you need to improve your score. And it's not all about the scores or your TOEFL practice and preparation, it's also about your daily life. So what can you do in your daily life which will improve your listening skills? There are a lot of things you can do. For example, immerse into English environment. And you can do it by watching movies, TV shows, listening to podcasts, or of course traveling. But even if you cannot travel and you are pretty busy and you don't have time watching TV or movies, just turn them on and do something else. Like you can wash dishes, you can take care of your kid. If there's something going on the TV and you are immersed in the English speaking environment, it's great. It's already fine. You don't have to be like sitting there watching it, like trying to understand every word. It's fine even if you just don't pay attention to it. But if there is a lot of English going on all the time, all around you, believe me, your listening skills will improve so much because the brain just gets used to it. Your ears start to get used to it. Then you won't have any problem with the main idea questions because your ear is all prepared about understanding English speech anytime, right? They turn it on and then your ear understands it. So immerse yourself in the English environment. If you can travel, then of course do go and travel and talk to people in English language. And if you cannot travel, watch watch movies, TV shows, if you don't have time to actually go and watch them, then at least turn them on somewhere on the background. It will help you a lot. Listen to natural speech, interviews, live shows, debates, TV news, or your foreign friends. Because a lot of times what you hear on TV and the movies was actually a script, right? The actors, they had a script, they remembered that whole thing by heart, and then the podcast, like the radio, they're reading something. When you're doing a TOEFL section, then of course they have a script. So sometimes it helps a lot when you not only listen to a scripted English speech, because it's going to be pretty good, it's going to be pretty perfect. There's special people who are trained to read very well, right? Sometimes it's very good to listen to natural speech, such as interviews or live shows or TV news, or some of your foreign friends who are just improvising, because natural speech is going to be very different. It's going to be like people don't care about their speaking abilities. They don't care about how well they talk. And it really increases your listening abilities when you start to listen to natural speech and then you make progress and you start understanding it. It's much more difficult than the movies and TV shows and podcasts, of course, but it's gonna help you a lot. It's going to get you so familiar to the language. So yeah, devote some time to listening to natural speech as well. Listen to different accents. So although in the TOEFL it's going to be an American accent, and we are pretty much used to an American accent because all the movies, all the TV shows, it's all about American English. So probably the TOEFL accent will be somewhat familiar to you. It's not going to be a British accent or a horrible Australian accent, I'm sorry. It's going to be a pretty familiar American accent. But still, even in the United States, different states speak different accents. In Atlanta, they speak completely differently than people in New York, than people in Boston, than people in Los Angeles. So it's very good for you if you're trying to listen to different people, as many people as you can. Again, it improves your listening skills dramatically, because the more accents you can understand, the better your overall understanding listening skills. So listen to different accents. Take courses in English. The listening section is going to be pretty much academic. Of course, there will be dialects, but just 2 out of 6, and 4 out of 6 will be academic lectures. So you need to get familiar with academic lectures. You need to be okay with them. If you're listening to an academic lecture, you understand it and there's no problem. You, of course, made a really good choice by taking this course in English, because this is a course. We're talking about academic things in English. But also pay attention to some different courses on Coursera or on Udemy, or some free university courses online which are out there. So start to get involved with some other English courses with academic lecture styles. It's free and you can actually learn something new. It's wonderful, and it also dramatically improves your listening skills. So do that. All right, so we covered it all. We just finished the listening section. We're going to move to the speaking in the next lecture, and I congratulate you. You really did it. You completed half of your preparation, and you should go celebrate. Seriously, today, make yourself something special. You completed half of the course. And of course, there are more practice exercises which you can do, and they will help you to improve your listening skills. So you can use all these tips that we discussed in the lecture and see how they work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.